Around the year 1250 BCE, in a desert village west of the Nile called Deir el-Medina, a scribe stood with a reed pen and a shard of broken limestone, carefully taking attendance for the craftsmen building the pharaoh's tombs. Next to the names of the men who didn't show up, he logged their excuses: brewing beer, wrapping a dead mother, or suffering a scorpion sting. But next to several names, he wrote a single, mind-blowing word: Hesman, meaning his daughter was menstruating. This ancient shard is the oldest surviving workplace attendance record in human history, and it proves that over 3,000 years ago, a teenage girl's period was treated as a state-sanctioned, normal reason for her father to take a day off work. To understand how they lived, we have to understand their obsession with ritual purity, which was about physical and procedural readiness rather than moral goodness. Priests shaved off all their hair and washed multiple times a day. To clean themselves, Egyptians used a naturally occurring lakebed salt called natron, which was used to purify temples, clean bodies, and mummify the dead. The Egyptian word for natron was heman. Remarkably, the Egyptian word for menstruation was also heman, and a menstruating woman was a hemenet. By sorting menstruation into the exact same linguistic drawer as the sacred salt used to clean temples, they viewed the cycle not as a shameful contamination, but as a natural, healthy process of bodily cleansing. If you search the internet, you will read on thousands of websites that Egyptian women used softened papyrus as tampons, but this is a modern rumor with zero primary evidence. The real answer is far more practical. Egypt was a linen civilization. Flax was a foundational crop, and linen production was a massive industry run by women, producing everything from sheer royal robes to coarse everyday rags. Egyptian medical texts document that folded and rolled pieces of linen were routinely used internally to deliver medications, making them the obvious, logical choice for managing menstrual cycles. In Deir el-Medina, washing this linen was actually a state-provided service. The government employed professional washermen, called rekti, who took the village laundry down to the river to wash it as part of the workers' compensation package. We even have surviving limestone shards recording workers filing formal complaints about how their laundry was washed, proving that managing a period was supported by state-paid labor. Egypt is also the birthplace of written gynecology, home to the 3,800-year-old Kahun gynecological papyrus, the oldest known medical text about women's health on Earth. While some of its theories were wrong, its pharmacology was surprisingly advanced. To prevent pregnancy, they used vaginal inserts made of honey and acacia gum. When acacia gum ferments, it produces lactic acid, which is a highly effective, naturally occurring spermicide still used in contraceptive gels today. Even more incredible was their home pregnancy test. A woman would place barley and emmer wheat seeds into separate cloth bags and urinate on them daily. If the barley sprouted, she was having a boy. If the emmer sprouted, a girl. And if neither grew, she was not pregnant. In 1963, researchers tested this theory and found that while the gender test was a coin toss, the urine of pregnant women successfully sprouted the seeds in roughly 70% of cases because elevated estrogen acts as a natural growth hormone for plants. Once pregnancy was confirmed, Egyptians estimated its length at 271 to 294 days, matching the modern 280-day average. Yet, across Egypt's vast bureaucratic records, there is no word for a professional midwife or obstetrician. Childbirth was kept entirely within an informal, oral sisterhood of mothers, sisters, and neighbors. When the time came, women did not lie down. They squatted on two painted mud bricks, known as Senet, utilizing gravity to aid delivery. These bricks were personified as a goddess believed to breathe life into the newborn. Archaeologists have found only one surviving painted birth brick, pulled from a mayor's palace in Abydos, showing a mother holding her newborn. Its top surface was heavily worn away, leaving a physical record of the actual feet of the women who stood on it to push life into the world. Keeping those babies alive was a brutal, daily battle. While some historians claimed ancient parents didn't get attached to children because so many died, the archaeological record shatters this theory. In worker towns, infants are rarely found in public cemeteries. Instead, parents lovingly buried their smallest children under the floors of their bedrooms and living spaces to keep them physically close even in death. To protect vulnerable infants from a river valley saturated with deadly parasites like whipworms and roundworms, Egyptian mothers relied on their own bodies. They breastfed their children for an extraordinary 3 years. Since breast milk was the only sterile fluid in the country, this extended nursing was a highly effective, 1,000-day food safety program that shielded infants from the contaminated water supply. Skeletal remains show that the most dangerous day of an ancient Egyptian childhood was not birth, but the day the milk stopped. Around age 3, as children transitioned onto gritty bread gruel and river water, their undeveloped immune systems were exposed to harsh Nile pathogens, causing a massive spike in child mortality. To protect sleeping children at night, families treated the bedroom as a defended perimeter. They painted their walls and carved their furniture with images of Bes, a grotesque, loud dwarf god with a lion's mane who faced forward to scare off evil spirits, and Tarit, a pregnant hippopotamus bouncer wielding a knife. Mothers used protective wands carved from hippopotamus tusks, dragging them along the dirt floor to draw a physical, protective boundary around the baby's bed. Using a hippopotamus as a protective household deity was a brilliant psychological move. The Nile hippo was 3 tons of territorial terror, capable of crushing boats and trampling crops. Rather than attempting to exterminate the deadly predators sharing their narrow strip of fertile land, the Egyptians chose forced coexistence. They split the hippo's identity. The destructive male hippo was associated with Set, the god of chaos, while the ferocious female hippo protecting her young became Tarit, the ultimate guardian of babies. They did the same with the Nile crocodile. In Crocodilopolis, priests kept a living sacred crocodile representing Sobuk, dressing it in gold earrings and feeding it wine and honey. When these crocodiles died, they were mummified by the thousands. Excavators in 1899 discovered that the embalmers had stuffed these crocodile mummies with discarded administrative papers, preserving rare historical letters and tax records inside the bellies of ancient monsters. While hippos and crocodiles were dramatic, the predators that killed the most ordinary Egyptians were much smaller: scorpions and snakes hunting rodents in the household grain stores. To survive, the Egyptians did not rely solely on prayers. They compiled clinical triage manuals like the Brooklyn Papyrus. This systematic treatise describes 38 different snake species, detailing the precise physical effects of their venom and providing realistic, medical verdicts. For some bites, the text offers treatments. For others, it states plainly that the patient will die and nothing can be done. This raw clinical honesty is the very definition of medical triage. To make the manual practical, doctors assigned each snake to a specific god, using the pantheon as an intuitive filing system so healers could instantly cross-reference which treatments and incantations to apply. Sharing a green ribbon of land with deadly predators was only half the battle. The other half was surviving the relentless desert heat, which easily soared to 43 degrees Celsius in the summer. With no refrigeration or electricity, keeping a massive labor force alive required masterclass engineering. The primary cooling technology was the house itself, built from thick mud bricks. Mudbrick possesses enormous thermal mass, acting as a natural temperature time machine. The blistering afternoon sun hits the thick walls, but the heat travels through the material slowly, taking hours to make the journey, so the peak heat of the afternoon arrives inside your house around midnight, when the desert night has turned cold. Conversely, the cold of the night is delayed until the blistering midday sun is at its peak. Homeowners painted walls white to reflect the sun and spent summer nights sleeping on flat roofs where heat could easily radiate away. For indoor cooling, they invented a brilliant passive ventilation system called a malof, a hooded roof vent angled to catch the prevailing north wind. This scoop funneled cool air down into the house while hot air escaped through high windows, creating a continuous, self-powering chimney effect. To turn this into a functional air conditioner, households placed porous clay water jars in the path of the incoming air. As water seeped through the clay and evaporated, it chilled the breeze, creating an evaporative cooling system identical to modern swamp coolers. For personal cooling, they wore loose linen, which wicked sweat and blocked direct solar radiation. Their diet of salted bread, preserved fish, and dates also functioned as an accidental electrolyte strategy, replacing the vital sodium and potassium lost through heavy sweating. Staying hydrated was a matter of life and death, but drinking from the parasite-ridden Nile was a dangerous gamble. The national solution was beer. This was not a modern pint, but a thick, low-alcohol, highly nutritious, soupy brew made from boiled barley or emmer wheat. Because the brewing process boiled and fermented the ingredients, it was safer than the river water, providing vital B vitamins and hydration to everyone, including children. Beer and bread rations were so critical to the cooling system of the workforce that when the government failed to deliver them on time during the reign of Ramesses III, the tomb builders downed their tools. They staged a massive sit-in behind a temple, launching the first recorded labor strike in human history and proving that a hydrated workforce was not a luxury, but a biological necessity. The calendar itself was dictated by the seasonal rhythm of the Nile, divided into 3 seasons: Akhet, the inundation; Parait, the sowing; and Shimu, the harvest. During Akhet, the Nile flooded the fields for 4 months, rendering farming physically impossible and putting nearly 90% of the country's agricultural workforce on paid leave. To fight off the massive surplus of empty, sun-baked time, the Egyptians turned to a highly sophisticated arsenal of games. The king of these pastimes was Senet, the oldest board game in human history, dating back to 3100 BCE. Played on a grid of 30 squares, players threw casting sticks or knucklebones to race their pawns off the board. Gorgeous ebony and ivory boards were buried with royalty, while ordinary tomb builders crudely scratched the game's grid into flat lunch break stones. Over the centuries, Senet underwent a profound spiritual evolution. The Egyptians began to see the game's unpredictable shifts of luck as a mirror for the human journey through life and death. By the New Kingdom, Senet had transformed from a casual time killer into a literal model of the soul's journey through the underworld. When Queen Nefertari was painted in her tomb playing Senet alone against an unseen opponent, she wasn't waiting for a friend. She was playing against fate itself, gaming for her eternal soul. This is why the dead were buried with their boards. It was critical equipment to win the ultimate game on the other side. When the sun set, the land of Egypt plunged into an absolute, terrifying darkness lit only by smoky castor oil wick lamps. While ordinary people slept, a highly specialized class of priests, known as the Hour Watchers, climbed onto flat temple roofs. Armed with simple instruments like a plumb line and a slotted palm rib, they tracked 36 star groups called decans to divide the night into 12 hours. They watched because they believed that the sun spent the night sailing through the dangerous underworld of the Duat, where it was repeatedly attacked by a pep, a giant serpent representing the absolute unmaking of existence. On Earth, the priests stood guard, performing scheduled rituals to defeat the serpent so the sun could rise again. Their mythology was incorrect, but their meticulous stargazing gave us the 24-hour day we still use on our phones today, proving that a civilization's deepest fears can accidentally shape the modern world. We do not know the intimate details of ancient Egyptian daily lives because of golden masks or giant pyramids, which tell us only what kings wanted us to think. We know them because of accidental archives. A middle manager complaining about a boat schedule, a worker staying home to help his menstruating daughter, and a family burying their baby close beneath their bedroom floor. These accidental receipts, preserved in the dry sands of the desert, prove that across 3,000 years, the human heart has never changed. We are still the same fragile containers of water, trying to survive the heat, protecting our children in the dark, calling in sick on a Tuesday, and desperately reaching for a game or a story to fill a quiet afternoon.